Instead of me coming up with the idea, I'll ask the freelance writer, hey, what's your best passion? And based on that, I'll hire the writer to write an ebook. So I never had shortage of ideas from then on. I was first anti-AI. I'm going to hire real freelancers to write about their real passions. In 2024, I noticed my sales making a drastic drop. You better use this or you're not going to be surviving in the future. My business went from 5,000 a month to like 10,000 a month, 15,000, 20,000. It went crazy.
BJ is a longtime self-publisher who has crossed the 1 million milestone in royalties on KDP. Since going full-time in 2016, he's been building his business largely as a lone ranger. But after joining Driven Publishers Elite, he embraced the power of collaboration, connection, and next-level strategy. BJ brings years of experience, perspective on how the publishing industry has evolved, and the mindset required to go the distance. Welcome, BJ.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Peter. I appreciate it.
It's great to have you here. How did you first get into self-publishing?
It's kind of a long story, but I try to keep it right to the main points from my origin because my publishing story kind of is connected to my online business journey. So I'm a little bit older, so 20 plus years ago, I was in college, and that's when I got first introduced to the world of eBay. And during that time, I noticed a lot of people were selling this one particular ebook, and it was for free on the online from one website. Another website was different. So I figured, you know what, let me list it up just out of curiosity for $2.99. And someone bought it for $3.24. And there was a shock at the time. That's 20 plus years ago. I didn't even know what you can make money from just sending an email for this file. And eventually the website owner who owned the ebook contacted all of us. And I ended up having the exclusive rights to sell this one particular ebook because I wrote the ad so well that other eBayers started copying my ad. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was just reading like persuasion books and trying to apply it to the sales letter. So I would give 40% to the owner. So while in college, I was making like $200 a month, like sometimes $300 a month, part-time on eBay with just one ebook. So that's where I got first introduced to the idea of, you can make money online, and I don't even think they had Kindle at the time. So during like my last year of college, I was about to graduate. I wasn't like your typical college student, like finding, internship, looking for a job. I had other easier jobs like a pedicab driver, simple stuff. I wasn't really serious with it, unfortunately. So I had a thought at the time, like, what do I do with my life, And just a thought came to me. It wasn't a big, grand vision. It was a simple thought like, maybe I'll do this internet thing full time. It was just a simple thought. And from then on, I remember it was one of my last years in college. It was Christmas time. And I was away from family because my college was in a different city. And that particular Christmas, I ended up not getting any gifts, right? So I was somewhat down. And I was also looking at this online home study course. It was very expensive at the time. It was like $1,000 course at the time. It was called Cash Like Clockwork by a guru at the time named Marlon Sanders. And with a little bit of money I had, Christmas, it was like 11:55 p.m. Christmas is about to be over. I said, if I don't get any gifts, I'll buy myself a gift, and I ended up buying that gift, $1,000 course, home study course. It was like a big booklet and 10 CDs. And I went through that course determined to start my online business. And I built up an online website. I created like a 5 CD home study info product, they called it at the time. And I launched it with a PayPal button. And after 6 months of waiting, I made 0 sales. I made nothing, like most people. So unfortunately, instead of persevering, I did like what most people do. I gave up on that online business venture, that dream, So I ended up moving back after college. I ended up moving back to my parents' house. And my dad had a convenience store at the time. And so I ended up working at the convenience store. So I ended up working like 5 years in that job. I got so sick and tired of it. I said, you know what? Let me try this internet marketing thing one more time. You know, I had some eBay experience, you know. So let me try it one more time. I make some money on eBay. So let me try it one more time. I have nothing to lose. So I had an idea about an ebook while working at the store. It was somewhat unique topic. And I looked on eBay and no one else had that topic. So I broke it down to 7 steps and wrote a simple ebook. And I put it up on eBay. And it is May of 2007. I still remember this date. And first week, 3 people bought it for $10. And the next week, 2 people bought it for $10, $9.99. Okay. So I was like, whoa, there's something to it. And so let me look online. What's the next step? To create a website. And I discovered warriorform.com. And I asked, how do you sell ebooks? And someone said, use ClickBank. You know, that's how you deliver digital delivery. So I was like, what the heck is ClickBank? But I set it up somehow in some way. How do you create like a sales page or a website? And someone said front page. And Microsoft at the time used to create a software called Front Page to create websites. So they no longer do it, it's that old. And I used that site and I created the website. It looked like an eBay ad. And the first month, May of 2007, outside of eBay on that website, I made 2 sales for $19.95 or $19.99, $39. And the next month, I made like $100. And from then on, I started writing ebooks about every single topic I could think of. Like when I was in college, you know, I was into like my friends were into like freestyle rapping. So I wrote an ebook about how to freestyle rap. I quit cigarettes at the time, so I wrote an ebook about how to quit cigarettes. All 20, 30 ebooks I could think of, I wrote it in different niches, different pen names. And by the end of that year, after being serious, I'm going to go for this all the way, I made $1,000 a month by the end of 2007. And I was still working at the store though. And the next year, I kept on writing more ebooks. And then good thing about ClickBank is that back then you could sell an ebook for $47. I know it's crazy now, but that was the norm. And ClickBank, if your product sells well, there's these things called affiliates. They're marketers that will sell your product, drive traffic to your website, and you give them 50% commission. So I started having all these affiliates, and eventually the second year in 2008, I was able to make like $3,000 a month. And that wasn't that much, you know, but it was enough for me to quit my job finally and finally move out of my parents' house. And I moved in with my friend who needed a roommate. So I finally became a full-time internet marketer from 2008, end of 2008. And 2009, I just kept on going, and somehow, some way, I found software in one of the niches that was selling well. And I saw the website, and they allowed you to, companies or businesses to pay the company, and you can use this, the software to sell it. It's called private labeling. They didn't call it private labeling by then, but it's called private labeling now. So I contacted the site, and I paid them $300 a month, I think, something like that. And no one was selling on ClickBank at the time for this software. So I was like, let me put it up on ClickBank. So I put it up on ClickBank, did the sales letter and whatnot, and my business went from 5,000 a month to like 10,000 a month, 15,000, 20,000. It went crazy. Like I had months went up to 40,000 a month. But while at the time I was doing that, I also knew like this is not my own software. Eventually, other people will come in, you know, and that's what happened. Other people will come into space, use the same software, come on ClickBank, use the same affiliates, joint ventures, but that side was slowly going down some time. So during that time, I was always looking for other opportunities, like what else is going to work. So around 2010 is when I discovered this Kindle, you know, and the tablet came out and Kindle came out around that time. And I didn't really pay much attention to it since my other business was slowly going down. I figured, you know what? Let me look into this Kindle thing. And I created a Kindle account. My account goes back to the end of 2010, actually. Yeah, it's insane. I look back, I thought it was 2011, but it's 2010. So, and I submitted all my ebooks that I wrote and all these other niches. And the problem with ClickBank at the time was it was very hard duplicating your success. And it was very hard creating an ebook. Like you have to create a website, a sales page, a ClickBank account, a separate YouTube channel. It was very difficult compared to at the time Kindle. You just submitted a Word document, So I just submitted like 30 Word documents or whatnot, the ebooks I wrote up until then, and majority of them didn't sell, and I didn't really think much about it. And about a month later, I was like, oh yeah, I got to check what's going on with that Kindle thing. And I looked, but it didn't take at the time. I saw the potential for more because from that proof of concept. So that's when I had kind of an idea, like a light bulb idea. Oh, wow. I was younger at the time, so I had a crazy goal like, oh, I want to publish 1 million ebooks. I know it sounds insane, but that's, imagine if you could have, the concept was if I could have so many more books, I'll make more. And it was a lot easier. It felt autopilot. So while I was having my ClickBank business on the side, I kept on hiring writers. Before Upwork, it was called Odesk, and before that, I started hiring like writers on Foreign Warriors for Hiring. So in the beginning, I came up with the ideas like, oh, write an ebook about stand-up comedy, how to do stand-up comedy, and then write an ebook about another topic was I think it was home surveillance system from research I had, and eventually I ran out of ideas. And so until one day, one of the freelancers, ghostwriters, I asked him, hey, what's your passion? And I remember him telling me something like his passion is, when he was younger, he was in junior Olympics or tournaments shooting a bow or something like that. So I was like, you know what? Write an ebook about that, how to shoot a bow. The book wasn't that great. Back then it was very short ebooks, 5,000 words. But the big lesson for me was that I didn't depend on myself for ideas. Instead of me coming up with the idea, I'll ask the freelance writer, hey, what's your best passion, number one best passion that you have real life experience in? And based on that, I will hire the writer to write an ebook. So I never had shortage of ideas from then on. So I would just hire writers constantly. There was no Amazon gurus I learned at the time, so I kind of like model after like dummies, for dummies. They publish on all topics. I mean, also saw a brand called Entrepreneur Press. They would have their brand name and the expert's name together on the authors in the book. So I had another idea. I was like, you know what? I'm going to put my brand, and I'm also going to put the writer's name on the map, on the book. So to give them extra benefit to write the book. Upwork back then was Odesk. I will put up a job post, and a lot of people will apply because they all want to be authors, and they all want to write about their passion. So I ended up creating like 100 to 200 ebooks in like 2 to 3 years. But back then it was a lot shorter again, compared to now, the word count. So it was a lot easier to, get to that amount. And during that time, it was always a side business. And I also got into other businesses I was looking into. I had some success with business opportunities, high ticket affiliate sales. But the problem with that business and my ClickBank business software was that I didn't own these. Like the software, I didn't own it. So eventually, like other competitors came in and they were selling the same product I was. The high ticket network marketing online business I was doing, hundreds of thousands of people were selling the same product. So eventually, all these businesses I was doing okay with online, they started going down. Until 2016, I looked at my business income. It went from like, 6 figures a year to I'm barely making 1,000, 2,000 a month. And one of the businesses that was hanging by a thread was my publishing business. It was making more 3,000 a month, but it was dwindling down to 1,000 a month. And that's when I decided, since everything's going down, and I'm surprised this Kindle business I barely touched is still surviving, 1,000 a month. I decided, you know what? For the first time, 2016, I'm going to give full focus on this publishing business. First time. And during that time, 2016, I discovered ACX. It's an audiobook platform to turn your Amazon ebook into audiobook. And I figured, you know what? I got 100, 200 ebooks right now. Let me maximize this. Let me turn every ebook into an audiobook. And my audiobooks, the ebooks were very short. So it was very cheap to hire and very fast. So I ended up publishing like 150 ebook audiobooks or whatnot really quickly that year. And that kind of slowly turned my publishing business around. And I kept on using my brand model, hiring everyday experts to write about their number one passion and putting their name on the back. And by then I had like 300 plus books, and I increased the word count from 5,000 to 10,000 to 15,000, 20,000, 25,000 words. Now eventually like 30,000 word plus. And from then on, I just kept being consistent. I didn't focus on anything else. Day in, day out, hire, look for writers, and then I'll publish. And I just keep at it. And eventually, by the time I met Peter in 2019, I went to a publishing seminar in Lake Tahoe. I was making about 5,000 a month. It wasn't a lot, but by the end of that year, though, I hit my first like 15K in December. So, and ever since 2020, I've been consistently hitting around 10K plus every single month. And, in December, 20K, and I'll say one more thing. And ever since 2020-ish, it's been consistent, steady growth until about, for me, I don't know about others, 2024, in the first half of the year, I noticed a little bit of slow growth. Maybe 2023 end of it and 2024 first half of the year was surprisingly slower. I think I know what it was looking back. I think it's the rise of more competitors. I think it's AI. People are using AI to create more books. And, I wasn't publishing as many books in 2023 and whatnot. So sales started kind of going down a little bit, but that's when I decided in the middle of 2024, like I was anti-AI, but I'm going to have to use it, So I embraced it. And ever since then, I started publishing a lot of books. And in the beginning, like anything, I wasn't the best at creating the books, but I kept at it, and sales started to pick up this year. And this year, I also saw Driven Publishers by Peter. It was advertised, I think, last year or whatnot, or end of last year. But I didn't join because I thought the price was expensive at the time, right? But then I found out the price tripled, and I was like, and he said, you might go higher. I'm like, dude, I don't want to pay more in the future. Like, so I ended up joining the group around March. And ever since then, it's helped me a lot in terms of, creating better quality books. I was kind of focused on quantity, but he helped me, and his team member, his group also helped me to focus on quality books, take your time on it. Don't rush it. Angle the books, make it different, stand out. And so I really learned a lot about the importance of quality from joining Peter's group. And also, back in the days, I would dabble with, new lessons like Facebook ads, but I was kind of intimidated. So I would give up. Like, I don't understand it. And I'll just give up. But by joining this group, I see, a mastermind. Like Peter was saying, I was a lone ranger all these years doing it all by myself, because I should have learned. That's a big mistake. I should have joined masterminds earlier. But by joining this mastermind, I saw other people using Facebook ads. And then that taught me like, oh, maybe it's, it works, compared to back then when I was a lone ranger. Oh, it doesn't work. But I saw other people succeeding. And even though I don't get it fully, I will simplify it and take action. And I'm starting to do Facebook ads a little bit more. I still don't get it fully 100%, but it's little things like this that's taking me to the next level. And sales, I picked up like 10 to 20% compared to last year in terms of KDP. So that's kind of been my journey. Yeah.
That's a fascinating journey. It's interesting to hear that you failed with your first business venture, and that you took a break for many years, but then you came back. And I think that's something that I certainly experienced in terms of failing with my At least my first web shop, I would consider almost the second business also a failure because I didn't continue it. I was miserable. But then all of a sudden you find something that works, and like you said, you're consistent with it. So just because we fail at one thing, even if we fail with a couple of books, it doesn't define us or the results that we are capable of getting in the future. I also found it interesting how you mentioned that you let the freelancer say, what are you passionate about? And then you hire them that way. I found that very fascinating. On that topic, do you hire them and you pay them a fixed amount, or do you do any royalty split?
I agreed on one-time payment, and that was it. No royalties. And I always work with one writer, one book, because most people only have one topic that they're, good at. But their main benefit is they want to become published authors. So, and that for that reason, I could even not have the highest rate. So I was able to afford it at a better cost. Yeah.
That's a great idea. And also how you mentioned you were looking back and you were seeing, okay, but Kindle, it's bringing me $1,000 a month. And I think that that realization has come to so many publishers where they look back and they go away from publishing and they try all these other things, and then they see that KDP, self-publishing, it's like a loyal dog that pays you no matter what, even if you've neglected it for for a long time. So I find that fascinating. And also then how you leveraged the content that you've already made and you created audiobooks. So you created an extra income and diversified. That's amazing as well. You've been in the game for years. What are some of the biggest changes you've seen in the KDP landscape since you started?
I think the biggest changes, and their changes happen every 5 years and whatnot, is mainly everything gets better. Everyone gets better. The books get better. In the beginning, it was 5,000 word books or 10,000 word books, but now it's like you got to do nonfiction, nowadays, like 30,000 words or more, 40,000, 50,000 words. And so it's evolved in terms of the better quality of books. And also now I notice it's almost a given that you have to learn advertising, whether it's Amazon ads and Facebook ads. And I also notice now kind of like more and more authors in the author space too, like they're going direct. They're also not just relying on one stream of income, but also, trying to be their own business, build their own email list through selling direct on Shopify and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. What do you think has contributed to the results you've achieved so far?
I think it's mostly it's a combination of just imperfect action. I wasn't the best writer or publisher creating books, but imperfect action is better than perfect inaction, they say, right? So I took a lot of action, quantity, but on the downside, I wasn't focused on quality at the time. So for me, it was quantity in the beginning. I'm learning quality now a lot better. Also being consistent and just being consistent, just publishing and being patient. A lot of people may come into the space and they create one book or 10 books or whatnot, and they don't make sales. Like that's normal. And they think they're a failure. They're not a failure. That's part of the process of success. You got to overcome that hump in the beginning. And over time, you make your first dollar. And then don't look at it. It's just like, oh, I only made $10 or $100. No, look at the potential for more from that proven concept, you know? So, yeah.
It's amazing, I agree. You recently crossed the $1 million mark in publishing. What went through your mind when you realized that?
I was like, part of me was like, man, it took a long time. Another part of me was I was really finally like grateful, like and fulfilled. Like finally I did it. Cause back then I was in niches maybe I wasn't super passionate about and I felt somewhat stuck in. Some people have that experience, but I built a publishing business I feel good about. And it's authentic. It's making a positive impact for all topics the best way I can, one step at a time. And I finally made over that hump. I was like, wow, I did it, and it took a long time, but it felt really good. Yeah.
I can imagine. It's just you take one step forward every day. You don't look at the how far you've come. Sometimes, at least I don't do that. But then when you cross these big milestones, you look up and you see, wow, that that was uh, that was quite an achievement.
Yeah.
Now, AI, you touched a little bit on it. It's reshaping a lot of industries. How do you see it affecting self-publishing, and has it influenced your own strategy?
I think I was like most people around 2023 when I first heard about AI being used for publishing. And I was first anti-AI, because I was more about I'm going to hire, real freelancers to write about their real passions, real human beings, obviously. And I was anti that until, like I said, in 2024, I noticed like my sales making a drastic drop, month after month. And it was very surprising. And I recall in 2023, I went to a book conference. It was in Las Vegas. It was a very big conference, and there was like 2,000 authors and whatnot. And I met this fiction author, and I asked him, "What do you do?" And he was telling me he had 700 books. And I'm like, "How do you have so many books?" He started off writing himself, but now he says he's using AI. And he kept on warning me, hey, his words were, the asteroid's coming. The asteroid's coming. Like, you better use this or you're not going to be surviving in the future. And at the time, I was kind of like, I don't want to do this. But after having that conversation with him and also seeing my sales dip a little bit, that's when I said, I have to use this new technology. Just like the calculator came out, when it first came out, some people maybe refused to use it. When the computer came out, the internet came out, some people refused to use it, but you got to adapt to the new technology. Whether it's creating books or creating images, or if not that, helping with your descriptions to be more efficient in your overall business.
And that's a great point. I recently had a conversation with David Martin as well, who's also crossed the $1 million mark, I think 1.8 million. And I think his interview will be published already by the time this one is published. But he had the same first experience with AI, and I had the same thing as well. We've hired freelancers for all this time, a little bit hesitant to apply AI. In his case, he had the Holy Ghost that and whispered to him to use AI to create more and better stories. And so he embraced AI eventually, and I embraced AI eventually, not as a replacement, but as a tool. And I think that's the key, is to not be afraid of it, and not necessarily have a black and white thinking where, okay, the AI must do everything, but rather, okay, how can I first, instead of using it to create something for lower cost or faster, how can I just use it to create higher quality? Whether that is with the images or with text, maybe adjusting the text a little bit and you get more and more used to it. Okay, it's not that bad after all. And then eventually you can leverage it more and more to its full capacity. What made you join Driven Publishers Elite?
For many years, I was doing this as a lone ranger, and even though I went to book conferences back then, with author conferences, it was somewhat difficult to meet publishers. There's a lot of writers and authors and whatnot, but there's not a lot of us doing this. And I also saw my growth being kind of somewhat slow, kind of slow. And also, I met Peter in 2019 at a conference. There was about 40 people only. And what stood out about Peter at the time was several things. Number one, out of all the people at that conference, there was about 40 people. I believe he had the most amount of books. I believe he had 400 books or whatnot at the time. And he was making the most at the time. I believe more than the instructors. You can tell he was very serious about this. And he eventually, when he started coming up with more YouTube videos and coming up with this training, that's when I was like, oh, wow, I know this guy's a real deal. I know he gets real results. And, how you do anything is how you do everything. And I saw his quality of videos on YouTube. They were high quality. I was like, you know what? I got to get to the next level. So even though it's a hefty amount to invest in, I've got to do it. So that's why I decided to join this year.
I appreciate that. And how has your experience been since you joined DP? Anything that has shifted for you since coming into the community?
Yeah, mainly it's the quality of books, and also angling my books. So it's different than, all the other generic books out there. And also just by being in the group, one powerful thing is they have a weekly call every single week live. And if you miss it, there's recorded sessions. And that is a huge thing. Like you don't see in most courses and whatnot, you know? And the opportunity to, talk to and connect with six-figure, seven-figure earners in this industry week after week, it starts to influence you to, take yourself a lot more seriously in your publishing business, in all aspects of your business, from your books, your advertising, things that you thought, I thought were too challenging, like Facebook ads. I'm stretching myself to do a lot more because I see other people doing it and getting results. I'm like, oh, maybe it works. And I got to persevere through these failures to finally get it, So little by little, and my sales have increased about 10 to 200% compared to last year per se, and things like that. Yeah.
That's amazing. Final question, what advice would you give to a publisher watching this who wants to stay in the game long enough to hit their big milestone?
I would say, especially if you're getting started, this is a marathon, not a sprint, as they say. And so be patient, in whether it's this publishing journey or any online venture journey, be patient. Because it's going to require, several books in the beginning to finally make your first sale. And even after, publishing a lot of books, if you don't make your sale, don't give up and don't give up on this journey. Keep taking action until you finally find success, even a little bit of success. When I look back, I quit my journey for like 3 years. Don't waste time, keep at it. Even if you're failing, keep at it, keep taking action, keep learning. And also, another thing I see is like most people, when they get started, they learn and learn and learn, and they don't take action, from just everywhere I've met. And like I met people who, I go to a conference and, they talk about they're going to write a book. I meet them next year and they don't have a book yet. Just get your book out there. First book will most likely be your worst book, but just get your book out there and just take action. And if you get overwhelmed in any of the steps, simplify it to make sense to you right now and just move on to the next step and publish it. And join a mastermind. Join a mastermind on driven publishers and learn from other people. Don't be like me back in the days trying to do this all by myself. Okay? Learn from other people and keep taking action and keep at it and give it some time. Give it not 1 month or just a couple months and quit. Give it 1, 2, several years. And if it doesn't work, be willing to pivot. Because I've also met people in my online business venture journey, like they weren't successful in one business model, but they pivoted and they became really successful in something else. So maybe publishing may not be for you, but that's okay. And find something else and you can succeed in that. But don't give up the journey,
BJ, this has been gold. Where can people go to learn more about what you're doing or connect with you further?
I have a YouTube channel. I started a long time ago about sharing document my journey. So the name, sometimes I change the name and whatnot, but you can look up BJ Man and you can find the YouTube channel or connect with me on Facebook and whatnot. Yeah.
Now, BJ, I'm looking forward to meeting you in Las Vegas. We met in Barcelona. You flew all the way there from Los Angeles. Again, we met in Lake Tahoe as well. So yeah, it's going to be great to meet you again.
Looking forward to it. Excited. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everything you've shared throughout this interview. Rewatch it and take notes. And I especially enjoyed how you talked about consistent action and also imperfect action. I think those two are key to getting big results. Thank you very much, BJ.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate it.